What's up everybody, Jason from Jason's Exotic Reptiles back at you with another video. Today we're at the Rhode Island Reptile Expo in North Kingston. We're all set up, but we went through the whole process, and this video is going to be talking specifically about what you need to do in prep for your first Reptile Expo. First thing you have to do to get into a Reptile Expo is go onto the Expo page, register as a vendor, and purchase some tables. That's step one, the easy one. Next thing is get your show supplies ready. So if you're a new reptile breeder, you want to make sure you're bringing plenty of light and electrical power to power those lights. Don't worry too much about the fancy displays. You can make something simple, just like what I have in front of me, which is just a deli cup display. These are displays that I used to use, basically some PVC cut up so I can clean it easily. Then you have your deli cups, you can order those online, pretty simple, inexpensive, and it makes your animals look really nice. Next, you can get some simple clamp lights if you want, but regardless, you need to have that lighting as I mentioned, because these displays do not pop as they would if you didn't have that lighting element to it. The animals in these displays plus the light is what actually sells them. Now, I have since purchased some professional reptile displays. If you have some money and you want to splurge, they certainly stand out. I get compliments all the time on the reptile displays I have. People will come and say, I came to your table just because your displays popped out. So I would say if you have the money, buy them, but don't make that the focal point of what you're doing with the reptile show. Another thing that you need to remember to have is what your displays are going to be sitting on. So essentially, you got to get some tablecloths. You don't need anything fancy. I've used black or red tablecloths for years. Since then, I've stepped up my tablecloths. I have them logoed and branded. I think they really make it pop. But again, it's another cost element. And if you're a new breeder getting into this, it's not going to be something that's essential to start your show. Next thing you're going to need is how are you going to label these animals? I take my labels and I have a Morph Market export. Put them all into a spreadsheet, put them into a label maker. You can get templates online, run them through the printer, and everything looks nice and professional. That's going to be a really important piece, as every animal you have should be labeled with exactly what it is. After I've made my Excel sheet export is I'll go down into my reptile room. If you only have a handful of animals, this might be easy, but with me, I have quite a few. So what I try to do is go down into my reptile room and I'll mark the ones that I want to bring, but also things that are just shed or have recently shed. You never really want to bring an animal that's in shed if you can avoid it. You want everything at this show to be representing you, your brand, and the animals themselves in the best way they can. The other thing I look for when packing these animals up is I try to give a variety. I don't want to bring 50 hypos with me. If I have 50 hypos, I might bring a couple males, a couple females. You want to make sure that everything's spaced in your displays so things pop as they should, and that's going to draw people visually to your table. All this combined is going to present a nice display for people to come and want to see you and at least want to talk with you, get to know you a little bit more. You are representing yourself and your brand every time you're out in public interacting. So remember, not everybody's there to buy. There's kids that are there to look, and that's an important piece of our hobby, is the more people we interact with, the more people we educate, the better our hobby's going to be. So the first thing I do when I walk into the Reptile Expo is I go to the registration desk and I get a feel for the layout. I want to find out where my table is. All the animals stay in the vehicle because depending on your climate, it may be really hot or really cold in here, and you want to feel all that out before you actually bring your animals into the space. And from there, you can proceed to setting up. I used to set things up in a different fashion, but what I've found have worked best for me is the first thing I'll set up is my banner. If you don't have a banner, it's fine. The next thing I do is I get all my tablecloths and put them so that they're nice and clean, laid out, it's even. Everything needs to look presentable from there. With these tables, typically if you get a little bit of a larger tablecloth, you have space under the table to store things, which is good because you're going to have supplies. You usually don't want that sitting in the background. It looks cleaner when everything's stuffed under the tables, hidden from the public eye. Always buy an 8 or a 10-foot tablecloth, because it's okay if you have a 6-foot table and it's bunched a little bit on the sides, but it looks terrible if you have an 8-foot table with a 6-foot tablecloth. Once my tablecloths are in place, that's when the magic happens. That's when you start assembling all your displays. You just kind of lay it out how you want it. You make sure it looks good. You stand back, you take a look, and then you can really organize things to make sure the displays are evenly spaced. Your tablecloth looks good still. Your banner is centered, and you're that person that they're going to be talking to. You're front and center every time a customer or potential customer walks up to your table. I use a banner for my shows, and that's something that I've done from way back when I first got my label. That was actually my first show purchase, was to get a banner. Signage so people know who you are and how to find you again is essential, as the component of a reptile show isn't necessarily to sell the animals. That's kind of an added bonus. It's really to market yourself and potentially get some new people who might be interested in following you or purchasing animals from you in the future. I may see 300 people during a reptile expo, and maybe only 4 or 5 actually purchased during that show. However, I get calls all the time, months later, people telling me they saw me at the show and they'd like to purchase an animal, whether it was something they saw here or something that I have in the future. So getting that connection and meeting the people is essential. That's really the fun part of the expo, is interacting with the customer, interacting with friends, and seeing the people over and over again as you continue to do these reptile expos. Now, I don't put prices on my labels. I wait till show day. I have some paint markers. You can get them short money on Amazon. Make sure you're safe for what you're actually going to be writing on, whether it be plastic or acrylic. You need to make sure that that physical label is legible. These paint markers are great because they wash off easily and it's quick to get them going during the show. That's my final step in the actual show process, is labeling all the animals with the prices. The night before the show is when I'll put all the labels on, put the animals in the displays, but then actually during the show, once we're all set up, that's my final piece where I'm going to physically write the prices on all these animals. So in terms of bringing a variety of animals to the show, I like to bring a range of all price points, from the most inexpensive animals I have to some of the most expensive animals I have. And that really gives the buyer something to visually go to. Everybody walking through the door is going to be looking for something different. You'll typically have overlap of what people want, and usually at reptile shows, the general customer at some of these regional shows are going to be looking for the more pet-friendly animals. You might have some breeders who are looking for the more high-end, and that's why I bring the high-end animals with me. However, most of the people at these shows are looking for a pet, or they're new or aspiring breeders looking to get into the hobby. It will be rare for somebody to purchase a $2,000 animal at this show, but I have that option here if they want it. However, what I do not want to do is I don't want to flood my tables with not for sale animals. Sometimes it can be a visual attraction for people to come up to. However, generally those animals are going to be the animals that I'm keeping back myself, and I just don't want to stress them out by bringing them to a show. If it's something that I'm not going to sell, I don't really want it on my table. In my opinion, those not for sale animals, they really don't add a huge amount of value to your table because people can't purchase them, and they're just going to crowd the table looking at what you might have, not necessarily purchasing what you have. And also, they may be blocking the view of potential buyers. So this specific animal that I pulled out is a Hypo Inca, one of my favorite looking animals here. This animal isn't really something that I expect to sell at a show. However, if there is somebody here looking for something unique, new, and a little bit more on the pricier range, this is a good animal for them to be looking at. In contrary to the animal that we just looked at that was $2,000, this girl here is a beautiful jungle that's het VPI. This gives those newer breeders, people who may be just getting into the hobby, a chance to get something that's powerful enough to breed, has the incomplete dominant jungle, but also gives them that recessive VPI trait if they are interested in that in the future. This specific one is priced at $300, which is very reasonable for the newer breeders and keepers. Somebody who may just want a pet and is unsure if they're going to breed in the future, this is a perfect animal for them. This would be another good example of a mid-range animal that is a little bit more expensive, so it's not really attainable to the people who might just want pets, or it might not be financially reasonable for them to purchase this animal as a pet. It isn't uncommon for somebody who just wants a pet to have a rare animal, but this is more breeder focused, similar to the Inca. This specific animal here is a Sunglow VPI Pink Panther. Really beautiful example. It's actually a Junglow VPI Pink Panther. Really pretty example of VPI, Hypo, Jungle, and Pink Panther all in one animal. As he grows, he's just going to get redder and pinker. It's going to be a fantastic looking boa as he continues to grow into his size. Now, I brought this for the breeder, somebody who might be looking to either get into breeding with a bang or somebody who is trying to complete projects that they might have. They may have hets, or they may have purchased hets from me in the past at previous reptile expos or even through online. But this is an animal that can fill a gap for somebody. That's a really important piece to bring to a show. Again, all of those price ranges, all of the variability that you can bring, the more you have, the better. However, don't expect to sell everything here. If you make one sale, that's a good show. If you make 2 sales, it's an excellent show. If you make more than 2, you hit it out of the park. So this guy here is a hypo-blood Mayan. This is an example of an animal that is for sale, however, it's very expensive. The price I have on this is $6,000. And it's not necessarily priced to sell, but this is priced for the more advanced breeder, somebody who really has kind of achieved a certain amount of reptile breeding and they're willing to take on a new project. That's why I bring this specific one here. I do have a pair in case people came and they wanted to purchase that pair. It's highly unlikely that this one would sell or really anything in that price range. But you do get those chances where people are coming in, they are more advanced breeders and they've been around for a while and they're looking to take on something new as a totally new project. That's why I bring this specific guy here. So with that, that's the video, guys. If you enjoyed this or it helped you in any way, please like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. Even if it just says, hi, good video, that really helps support this channel. If you feel so, make sure to share this. That extra helps this channel. I appreciate you guys watching this. If you're interested in any animals that you've seen here today, or you might want to purchase some animals in the future, make sure you check out my website. If you want to join a community of reptile keepers and breeders, check out my Patreon, jasonsexoticreptiles.com or patreon.com/jasonsexoticreptiles. Until next video, let's keep it moving. Thanks, guys.